Hello, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm going to be talking in this live stream about reel-to-reel tape recorders and whether they're really making a comeback in the audio market. What are the pros and cons of them? And I'm talking about reel-to-reel from the point of view of somebody who, um, okay, I listen to records primarily, also CDs, mainly in the car. Reel to reel is something that I've experienced in the past a long time ago, and I was surprised recently reading somebody on a forum saying that he's now using reel to reel as his primary source. By the way, I'd like to apologize for the lighting on this live stream. It's well overexposed, so there's nothing I can do about that. The main thing is you can hear what I'm saying. So yeah. So the thing about reel to reel, I've already bought into the idea and I've already accepted that in order for me to get the best possible quality of sound that I find reasonable, I'm prepared to accept some inconvenience. And obviously, let's face it, LPs are less convenient than CDs. And I suppose CDs and LPs are less convenient than streaming. Streaming has got to be the most amazing method of listening to music. I was signed up to Spotify and I was absolutely amazed by the choice and the ease of listening. It really is the ultimate inconvenience. So the reason that I listen obviously to LPs and records is that I prefer this. I prefer the sound experience. I prefer the listening experience, and it is less convenient than other methods. But for me, I find it the best. So I'm not going to criticize people who've decided to listen to reel to reel. I'm not going to criticize them on convenience because I've already accepted that one can accept less convenience in order to get better quality of sound. However, it seems to me that this convenience, this argument about convenience versus quality, has kind of got a limit to it. That all right, I've heard it claimed that reel to reel, if you record either a record or a CD onto reel to reel and play it back, it will sound better on reel to reel rather than through either of those primary sources. I've heard this claim. I've never experienced it because I've never done the comparisons, and I've not listened to reel in such a long time. I find it very difficult to accept that this could be the case, but not impossible. And the reason for that, of course, is that, for example, I've been saying for a long time that digital LPs sound better than either streaming or CD, which in a way doesn't make sense because um, you've got the CD, which has got uh, better dynamic range, etc. Why should an LP? Why should a digital LP sound better than the CD? It doesn't. It doesn't really seem to make any sense. Yet it seems to be the case with me that a digital LP sounds better than a CD equivalent played on. It doesn't matter how high level equipment, because I've been to hi-fi shows. I've heard 50 grand's worth of kit. So if anybody wants to come to me and say, "Oh, you've only heard budget," no, I haven't only heard budget systems. I've been to hi-fi shows. I've heard top of the range equipment, SACD, what have you, the whole lot. So I don't want to hear any of those arguments. So yeah, coming back to reel, I've done a quick check around. There don't seem to be any new reel to reels being made. There seems to be a secondhand market of Sony's, Revoxes, and various other machines which were made, I think, in the 70s, 80s, and I don't know, maybe 90s, that people are buying. They're reconditioning them, and they are recording their LPs or CDs onto reel to reel and then playing them back. And they're happy with reel to reel sound. They think it's better than either CD or LP playback. Okay, well that's fair enough, and I can't contradict that because I haven't heard it. I haven't done the comparisons, and I wonder why that might be. And that's something that I'm probably going to speculate on. So I did ask somebody about reel to reel, how much it costs, etc., and what are the practical implications of using reel to reel. So first of all, it looks like a good reel-to-reel recorder, playback system costs anywhere between sort of 1,500 and 3,000 pounds for a second-hand machine. Then you're looking at probably having to have it reconditioned, which could easily cost another £1,000. So we're talking about really quite big numbers. And then we're talking about the actual medium itself. So you've got a reel of quarter-inch tape. It comes on a reel. It has to be loaded onto the machine, and it has to be laced up with the destination reel. I've spoken to somebody about this, and he tells me that it can take anything up to 2 minutes to lace up a tape. That strikes me as being a very long time. If I want to listen to, say, a Mozart piano concerto on record, I can pop it out of its sleeve and have it on the turntable and playing within about 10 or 15 seconds. Okay. So 2 minutes is quite a long time compared with sort of 10 or 15 seconds. If I had to search 2 minutes for if I say wanted to listen to, say, Mozart piano concerto number 25, and I had to go and search, and it had to take me 2 minutes to find and put on my turntable and get it going in 2 minutes, it might put me off. It might make me think it's not worth listening at all. 2 minutes seems like a long time, but people are prepared to do it. And then you've got the question of unlacing at the end and storing it away. That also takes time. So it seems to be quite a sort of cumbersome way of listening to music. There's the question also of, for example, if you've got a reel-to-reel, let's say you've got a long reel-to-reel that can, say, do 90 minutes of music, and you've got 2 LPs on that reel-to-reel, and you want to listen to, let's say, Beethoven Piano Concerto number 3, which is on that reel-to-reel, on that tape spool, but it's the 4th track in. How do you find it? Okay, there's a counter. You can cue the tape, you can play it at high speed to try and find the right place. Again, it seems to me like this is the trade-off or the improvement in sound quality would have to be so spectacular and worth listening to for this cumbersome way of listening to reel-to-reels. It would really have to be spectacularly better than either CD or LP for me to even consider using reel-to-reel. And if you think about the cost, like I've been told that for a tape, a spool which gives you, say, 90 minutes of music, can cost anywhere between 50 and 80 quid. 50 and 80 pounds for, say, 2 LPs worth of music. Well, I don't know what to say. That is a lot of money, and it's not like your reels are going to be worth anything. At least with my records that I'm collecting, I buy them in, and I mean, they're actually worth something. I can sell them on. I don't think you'll be able to sell your recorded music on reels, although you would probably be able to sell those reels as blanks for somebody to record onto. Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. It's a very convoluted and impractical way of actually storing and putting music, recording. For example, if I decided to go down the reel-to-reel route, my record collection, say over 1,000 records, what am I going to do? How long is that going to take me to record onto reel-to-reel? I'll be sitting here for 2 or 3 years recording them. Okay, well, we've got a comment in. Laurent D says, cost put aside, I wonder if fiddling with a machine is not a big part of the fun also. Well, okay. You know, I mean, in Britain particularly, we've got a lot of hobbyists who enjoy fiddling with technology. We see it with model railway enthusiasts and of course, yeah, hi-fi enthusiasts as well, building their own amplifiers and that kind of thing. Yeah, and a reel-to-reel is a reel-to-reel tape recorder is actually quite a complex piece of audio playback equipment. Very, very complex. So yeah, I can see that people would enjoy maybe doing that, but I've heard specific claims that the sound quality is that much better that it's worth doing. So yeah, just talking about the sound quality and why, for example, if you record a Decca LP and put it onto a reel-to-reel tape and then play it back, why would it sound better? Well, the main reason I can think of is that the circuitry itself, the process of transcribing an LP onto a magnetic tape, is doing something, and then obviously it's going through the circuitry in it's being processed. It's being processed. The sound comes in from an LP. It's processed through the circuitry in the tape recorder, and it's encoded onto the tape, onto the magnetic tape. And then when it's played back, it's processed a second time. It goes through the circuitry. It's converted into a signal that an amplifier can handle. And I can only imagine that something is going on in the circuitry of a reel-to-reel tape recorder and the process of transcribing the information from the tape. Something is happening. Something is happening to the sound. And then when it comes out, for some reason, it's sounding better in some way to whoever's listening to it. I can relate to that because we've got thousands of different turntables and cartridge combinations, millions of cartridge, tone arm, and record player combinations. Every single one will sound different in some way. Now, I suppose you could say that there should only be one version of the truth. So you've got your recording. It's perfect if you're in the studio and you hear it. That's how you want it to sound when you play back on the record, but that's never what you'll get because there are so many different permutations with the playback equipment. So um, every single cartridge is going to sound different, every single tone arm, every single turntable. So there are millions of versions, shall we say, of the truth, but there's only one truth, maybe the truth that was heard in the studio that day when it was recorded. So the reel-to-reel output is another version of the truth. Something is going on in the circuitry, and people who are fans of reel-to-reel playback, hear their version of the truth, and it sounds better to them. Now, I know that with LPs, that there's a lot that goes on with the cutting and mastering, and it's one of the drawbacks with LPs that the groove depth, the groove width. If you get more onto a side, the fidelity is going to be lower because you're squeezing down the size of the groove. So yeah, I understand those things, and I understand that when I'm listening to my LPs, that they're probably a flawed version of the master tape. That they have to be, but maybe there's some advantages. For example, if you go listen to a symphonic concert, you sit in the front row, and those violins are screaming away in say a Haydn or Mozart symphony. Maybe when they're recorded and they're attenuated down so that the groove can handle it, maybe there's some benefit in what happens to an LP when it's mastered. Maybe that's why they've got this warm sound that many of us describe, because something beneficial is actually happening in the mastering process. And it may well be that with reel to reel, when you record onto a tape and it's played back through the circuit, something beneficial is going on, because maybe the absolute truth of the recording is not the best possible thing for a person to hear. Maybe something less than that or different from that actually sounds better. Okay, I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I'm trying to rationalize why people would be saying that a reel to reel of a CD or a record sounds better than either a CD or a record, regardless of how good equipment is played on. I can't comment. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard this claim or put it to the test, but obviously for me, I've got a system which I'm happy with. I'm happy listening to records. I like the format. And yeah, Dr. Rappaban, tapes do compression automatically. Okay, you're talking about reel to reel. Okay, well, yeah, so something is happening to the sound. That's interesting. So if somebody records an LP and there's compression going on in the analog environment of reel to reel, something is happening, and it's being played back, and the listener is perceiving it as sounding better. than the original source. So um, yeah, so I don't really know. I've seen more and more videos popping up on YouTube about reel to reel. I find it interesting because I'm interested in nostalgic, or well, not let's not say nostalgic. Let's not say nostalgic. Retro technology coming back, and let's be honest, record players are retro technology, and I'm really thrilled to see record players making a big comeback and that so many companies are producing them and making better quality record players. It's really great to see, pick up a hi-fi magazine in the newsagent and flip through it, and I can see that there are new record players being produced all the time. It's really good news because obviously I'm a big record player fan, but I can't really see the same thing happening with reel to reel. There are no pre-recorded reel to reels as far as I know. I don't see any of the, like MoFi or Mobile Fidelity or whatever they call it, or I don't see them bringing out recordings on reel to reel. So it's not really making a comeback in the commercial world in the same way that records are making a comeback. But nevertheless, I do find it interesting. The closest I've come to reel is when I had a hi-fi video recorder back in the 90s. And I was quite intrigued that it could be used to make audio recordings, and that a 4-hour tape could be turned into an 8-hour hi-fi tape. Yeah, that really interested me. So I bought a good quality videotape, and I tried making some recordings from my LPs, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with the results, to the extent that when I played back on the hi-fi video recorder through my hi-fi system, and I had valve amplification, good KEF speakers, etc. I struggled to tell the difference between what was coming out of my hi-fi video recorder tape and the actual LP. So yeah, I mean, I could see that the claim that maybe it sounds as good as, but that it sounds better than the source seems to be a bit sort of fanciful. But I haven't heard it, so I don't know. And I'd be interested, if anybody watching this video, have you heard reel to reel? Have you made a recording and compared it with the original source? Let me just see the comments. Reel to reel are closer to the source when it was tapes, but they are harder to mass produce, and tapes damage as easy as records. Well, I suppose it's a problem with tape that you could get a breakage and then you'll have to splice it, which is a pain in the neck. But yeah, as I've said, it strikes me that it's a very, very expensive way of listening to music. As I said, somebody told me that a good quality 90-minute quarter-inch reel can cost anything up to £80, which is a hell of a lot of money, and just all the sheer effort of recording and then playing it back. And I can't really see myself getting into reel to reel anytime soon. I'd probably be more likely to buy a Nakamichi cassette player and get back into music cassettes, audio cassettes, which I always thought, for what they are, produced really good sound quality. And I know when I had my car player, I had a Kenwood tape player in my car, and it was absolutely bloody amazing. I'll tell you, I used to play pre-recorded, bought music cassettes, Decca, EMI, etc. And the quality on that Kenwood was absolutely superb. I really enjoyed listening to it. And even my friend, one day when he got into my car, and I put a tape on, he said, "God, what's that? That sounds absolutely amazing." So yeah, I mean, I don't know, in a way, why go for reel to reel when audio cassettes, and there were some really good tape decks out there with Dolby noise reduction and everything, and Nakamichis, I suppose, were the best. And in fact, there was a Lynn Sondek dealer back in the 90s that I bought a Lynn Sondek off in Loughborough, called Sound Advice. Maybe some of you who are in the UK will have heard of that company. Yeah, I bought a Lynn Sondek back in the 90s with an Akito arm, and I can't remember the cartridge, but I did have a Lynn Sondek, And he was telling me he was dead set against CDs in those days, the guy who was running the company. And he said to me that, because I said, well, what about digital recordings? If it's not available on LP, what are people doing? And he said to me that he knows people that rather than listen to CDs would rather buy digital cassettes and listen to them on a Nakamichi. And which I was amazed at, but I think that cassettes could sound really good on the right equipment. And a friend of mine said, this friend who was impressed with the sound that my Kenwood made in my car, he said one of the reasons is because it's using a car battery, which is a more stable power source than mains. I don't know whether there's any truth in that. I just kind of accepted what he said and moved on, because I don't really know much about electricity and whether like a battery source would necessarily be any better than AC or DC or whatever coming out of your wall socket. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Dr. Rappaban. Yeah, reel to reel can run at a higher speed and wider track. Yeah, I accept that, and maybe that's why my hi-fi video recorder sounded so good, because it was using the full width of the tape. I mean, maybe that's the reason. And yeah, high speed. However, bear in mind, with higher speed, you've got less playing time. So with these reel to reels, you can either have extended playing time, play at a slower speed and reduce the quality, or get higher quality and get half the music. So it might be you're paying out 80 quid for a reel of 1/4 inch tape that can only play back 1 LP's worth of music. Yeah, Dr. Rappaban. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, of course, in a car. Although I must say, of course, even when I was stationary, I didn't have the engine running. But yeah, I admit that on tape you can always hear some background hiss, even on a really high quality player with Dolby noise reduction. You can still hear some hiss. But hey, I've got tinnitus in this ear. In my left ear, I've got tinnitus, and believe it or not, I've got a continual hiss in my left ear. So the background hiss on either a record or a CD or a tape isn't going to make much difference to me, because this hiss is so loud that it will mask any hiss on any tape. So yeah, that is not something that would affect me. But still, I think that cassettes reached quite a high level of sound quality. They did a remarkable job with some of the players. Okay, well, I think that's about it on reel to reel. I've really got nothing more to add. I just thought I would quickly make this video. For those of you who are interested, I've had some new records in on eBay from my eBay purchases. I've had 3 packages. Here's one of them, if I can just reach it, just to prove to you. I've just been somewhere to pick this up. Yeah, can't really see, the lighting is so awful here. And I've got 2 other packages, so I'm going to be making a video today and uploading it later about my latest purchases. But yeah, that's all for now. Anyway, listen, thanks for tuning in. For those of you who are not watching live, I hope you'll be prepared to leave some comments, because I'm fascinated by reel to reel. I mean, what next? 8-track or 78s? We've had so many different formats over the years. But why not? I mean, why not try them out? I mean, I would like to have a reel to reel myself, but there's such huge money, and I don't really think that I ever will bother to own one. I'd probably be more likely to buy a good quality cassette deck. Okay, thanks for watching. I'm going to end this stream now, and I'll be making another video this afternoon about the records which I've had in. Bye for now.